Hey Dan, how's it going? Today I'm really excited to share this amazing story with you. We're going to talk about the woman in the New Testament who had the hemorrhage, the issue of blood for 12 years, how she was healed, how she touched the hem of Jesus' garment, how she took a huge risk, how she was really afraid, everything that was going on. There's so much Hebrew Israeli culture going on here that is totally missed by the people normally when they read it. They just read this story, they think, well, she was healed. Okay, that's great, that's it. No, there's so much more we can learn from this tiny little story, and there is so much about Hebrew that can help us figure it out. So let's look at the accounts. There are three accounts in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The first one we're going to look at is Luke 8:43 to 48. And a woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years and could not be healed by anyone came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. And immediately her hemorrhage stopped. And Jesus said, "Who is the one who touched me?" And while they were all denying it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone did touch me, for I was aware that power had gone out of me." When the woman saw that she had not escaped notice, she came trembling and fell down before him and declared in the presence of all the people the reason why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." Okay, so normally people read this, they think great, and they move on and don't think twice. No, let's look at Mark 5. It has a little bit more information. It talks about how she was getting worse. Verse 26, she had endured much at the hands of many physicians and had spent all that she had and was not helped at all, but rather had grown worse. After hearing about Jesus, she came up to the crowd behind him. That's important. We'll talk about that later. Next is Matthew 9. This one's the shortest. Just says that she's suffering from hemorrhage for 12 years, came up behind him, and she touched the fringe of his cloak, the fringe. This is what we're going to talk about. This is the key to understanding this part and why she was so afraid. Let's see what this word is in Greek. Here it is, kraspedo. That is the extremity or prominent part of a thing, edge, skirt, margin, the fringe of a garment. In the New Testament for Hebrew, tzitzit, a little appendage hanging down from the edge of the mantle or cloak, made of twisted wool, a tassel or tuft. The Jews had such appendages attached to their mantles to remind them of the law according to Numbers 15:37. What in the world? What in the world is it talking about here? What are these little appendages? What are the corners of these garments? Let's check out Numbers 15:37. The Lord also spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and tell them that they shall make for themselves tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and that they shall put on the tassel of each corner a cord of blue." And so here we have the word tassel, corner, and again tassel and corner. Let's learn these words. Diber el bnei Israel va'amarta alehem va'asu lahem tzitzit. Speak to the sons of Israel and tell them, speak to the sons of Israel and tell them to make for themselves tassels, tzitzit. Okay, remember that word? On kanfeh. This is the word kanaf. Just like you were saying in your last video, Dan, that in Hebrew is built on the three consonant root. So the root for this word is kanaf. This is just the plural form. So put these tzitzit on the corners of your clothes throughout your generations. Put in the tzitzit, put in the tassel of the corner of the kanaf, little blue thread. So what does this actually look like? Today in Israel, people wear this thing. It's a prayer shawl. It's used for religious purposes. It's called talit in Hebrew. And here you can see two corners. Here's one corner. Here's another corner. So this in Hebrew, this corner where the star is would be called kanaf. This is the kanaf. And these tassels hanging down are the tzitzit. And there should be a little blue thread woven into 4 of these tassels. This particular talit or prayer shawl can cost up to $1,000 or more. The actual flag of Israel was designed with the talit in mind. You see these stripes here. This one's black, but they also are blue. So they're either blue or black and white. So the idea for the flag of Israel came from that. Now, some people in Israel even use the flag as a prayer shawl. It's kind of funny. It's not very practical to wear one of these things on you all the time, and you're supposed to have it on all the time. So they have what they call the talit katan, which just means a little talit, and it's like a little vest that you wear under your shirt. So you would put it on your body and then put your shirt on over it, button it up, and these little tzitzit are hanging down over your pants. So you can see people walking around in Israel with the little tzitzit hanging out. So what does this have to do with the woman? What does this have to do with Jesus? Well, a lot. We know that Jesus kept the law, so he had these tassels, he had these tzitzit. If you remember, he was condemning the Pharisees for making their tassels giant, huge, so that they would be noticed, that people would see how pious they are. Here is an artist's rendition of the story that we're talking about. So you can see how the woman came up behind Jesus. This thing here is the talit. This blue part here is the kanaf, the corner. And this is the tzitzit with the blue thread. Here's another one. Again, she came from behind him, secretly. So this woman was terrified. She was freaking out. It says she was trembling, but why? What possible reason could she have for being so afraid? She didn't do anything serious. She just went up and touched his little talit. So why was she so afraid? Well, she had a big reason to be afraid. What she did was actually very risky because the temple was still standing in her day and she was ceremonially unclean for 12 years. So imagine life as this woman. She could not eat the Passover meal. She could not go to the court of women during Sukkot. She was totally ostracized, like a leper. If she were married, it probably ruined her marriage and therefore her life. If she had it before, then she probably never got married. We don't know, but we know that it was a horrible thing for her in these days. So we also know that when you touch someone, when you're unclean and you touch someone, your uncleanness passes to them. And so then they are ceremonially unclean. So she probably made 20 other people unclean, squeezing in, trying to get to Jesus, just like Peter was saying, what are you talking about? Who touched you? There's people are pressing in on you. So she probably made a bunch of people unclean. She was afraid about that also. So we can sympathize with her. We know that she was suffering a lot, not only physically, but also socially. There's a really interesting verse in Malachi, which is this verse is actually just a few verses before the end of Malachi, before the end of the Old Testament, where the intertestamental period starts and the New Testament starts. So right before the end of the Old Testament, Malachi 4:2 says, "But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings." Okay, what's going on here? And what is this Son of Righteousness? And why Are these letters capital? Well, the translators view this as a messianic verse, and it is a messianic verse. It is widely accepted as a messianic verse. Even Jewish rabbis, scholars, ancient ones, viewed this as messianic. Today, modern Israel, the rabbis don't like to see this as messianic because they know about the story with Jesus and they don't like the implications. But we do like it because it's true. So, proper noun, this is a name of somebody, the Son of Righteousness. And remember, it's S-U-N, like sun and moon, not S-O-N, like son and daughter. This translation didn't capitalize it. Didn't. This one did. But the more important thing is this word wings. The Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings. What is this word wings? Let's check it out in Hebrew. You who fear my name, Son of Righteousness, with healing, bichnafeha. Here's that root, kanaf. What? The Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his kanaf. If you forgot, the kanaf is the corner of the garment. And what was the woman saying? She was saying, if I can only touch the corner of the garment, then I will be healed. Is it possible that this woman knew what she was doing? She knew scripture. She was expecting the Messiah. The time when this woman was alive was just pregnant with expectation with the Romans and everything that was going on. So she could have been expecting the Messiah so much. And okay, you might say, well, that's speculative, but think about the Samaritan woman at the well, right? The Samaritans were like heathen, worse than heathen Gentiles to the Jews. They were so bad. But when Jesus was with the Samaritan woman at the well, this Samaritan woman knew stuff about the Messiah. So if the Samaritan woman knew, then definitely this daughter of Jerusalem knew and was expecting. The Messiah. Also, she wasn't the only one who was healed in this way. If we look at Matthew 14:34, when they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret, and when the men of that place recognized him, they sent word into all that surrounding district and brought to him all who were sick, and they implored him that they might just touch the fringe, the kanaf, the corner of his cloak, and as many as touched it were cured. All of them who touched it were cured. There was healing in his kanaf. That is amazing. We forgot to look at Strong's dictionary for kanaf. Skirt, corner, or loose flowing end of the earth. It's like the four corners of the earth and stuff like that. So Malachi 4:2, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings. Wow. Okay. You could still say it's talking about the sun and moon, not like son and daughter. So that's weird. It's maybe also speculative to make that messianic verse. I don't think so. First, because why would the sun be righteous and why would it have healing? Second, if we look at Revelation 22, verse 16, it says, I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you these things for the churches. I am the root and the descendant of David, the bright morning star. So, if Jesus can be the bright morning star, then he can be the sun with healing in his wings, I think. I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and can appreciate the things going on here. I really appreciate your videos and look forward to the next one. Thanks for watching and see you later.